Welcome back to another live reading of Psycho-Cybernetics. My name is Alyssa Luce, and you guys are joining us today for Chapter 13, How to Turn a Crisis into a Creative Opportunity. And we're over in the section that is entitled Shadowboxing for Stability. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. So it reads, Gentleman Jim Corbett made the word shadowboxing popular. When asked how he developed the perfect control and timing for his left jab, which he used to cut John L. Sullivan, the Boston strong boy, to ribbons, Corbett replied that he had practiced throwing his left at his own image in the mirror more than 10,000 times in preparation for the bout. Jeannie Tooney did the same thing. Years before he actually fought Jack Dempsey in the ring, he had fought an imaginary Dempsey more than 100 times in the privacy of his own room. He secured all the films of old Dempsey's fights. He watched them until he knew every one of Dempsey's moves. Then he shadowboxed. He would imagine that Dempsey was standing before him. When the imaginary Dempsey would make a certain move, he would practice his counter move. Sir Harry Lauder, the famous Scottish actor and comedian, once admitted that he had practiced a certain routine 10,000 times in private before ever giving the performance publicly. Lauder was in effect shadowboxing with an imaginary audience. Billy Graham preached sermons to cypress stumps in a Florida swamp before developing his compelling platform personality with live audiences. Most good public speakers have done the same thing in one way or another. The most common form of shadowboxing for public speakers is to deliver their speech to their own image in the mirror. One man I know lines up 6 or 8 empty chairs, imagines people sitting in them, and practices his speech on the imaginary audience. Easy practice brings better scores. When Ben Hogan was playing tournament golf regularly, he kept a golf club in his bedroom and daily practiced in private, swinging the club correctly and without pressure at an imaginary golf ball. When Hogan was on the links, he would go through the correct motions in his imagination before making a shot and then depend upon muscle memory to execute the shot correctly. Some athletes practice in private with as little pressure as possible, so they or their coaches refuse to permit the press to witness practice sessions and even refuse to give out any information concerning their practice for publicity purposes in order to protect themselves from pressure. Everything is arranged to make training and practice as relaxed and pressure-free as humanly possible. The result is that they go into the crisis of actual competition without appearing to have any nerves at all. They become human icicles, immune to pressure, not worrying about how they will perform, but depending upon muscle memory to execute the various motions which they have learned. The technique of shadowboxing, or practicing without pressure, is so simple, and the results so striking, that some people are inclined to associate it with some sort of magic. I remember a Dowger, for example, who for years had been jittery, felt ill at ease in social situations. After practicing shadowboxing, she wrote me, I must have practiced making a grand entrance in my own empty living room 100 times or more. I walked down the room, shaking hands with innumerable imaginary guests. I smiled and had something friendly to say to each one, actually saying the words out loud. Then I moved about among the guests, chattering here and there. I practiced walking, sitting, talking gracefully and self-confidently. I cannot tell you how happy I was, and might say somewhat surprised, at a wonderful time I had at the GT ball. I felt relaxed and confident. Several situations came up which I had not anticipated nor practiced, but I found myself ad-libbing them admirably. My husband is sure that you work some sort of mumbo-jumbo on me. Shadowboxing turns on self-expression. The word express literally means to push out, to exert, to show forth. The word inhibit means to choke off, restrict. Self-expression is a pushing out, a showing forth of the powers, talents, and abilities of the self. It means turning on your own light and letting it shine. Self-expression is a yes response. Inhibition is a no response. It chokes off self-expression, turns off or dims your light. In shadowboxing, you practice self-expression with no inhibiting factors present. You learn the correct moves. You form a mental map, which is retained in memory. A board, general flexible map. Then, when you face a crisis where an actual menace or inhibiting factor is present, you have learned to act calmly and correctly. There is a carryover in your muscles, nerves, and brain from practice to the actual situation. Moreover, because your learning has been relaxed and pressure-free, you will be able to rise to the occasion, extemporize, improvise, act spontaneously. At the same time, your shadowboxing is building a mental image of yourself, acting correctly and successfully. The memory of this successful self-image also enables you to perform better. Dry shooting is the secret of good marksmanship. A novice on the pistol range will quite often find that he can hold the handgun perfectly still and motionless as long as he is trying not to shoot. When he aims an empty gun at his target, his hand is steady. When the same gun is loaded and he attempts to make a score, purpose tremor sets in. The gun barrel uncontrollably moves up and down, back and forth, in much the same way that your hand tremors when you attempt to thread a needle. Almost to a man. All good pistol coaches recommend lots of dry run target shooting to overcome this condition. The marksman calmly and deliberately aims, cocks, and snaps the handgun at a target on the wall. Calmly and deliberately, he pays attention to just how he's holding the gun, whether it is canted or not, whether he is squeezing or jerking or the trigger. He learns good habits calmly. There's no purpose tremor because there's no over-carefulness, no over-anxiety for results. After thousands of such dry runs, the novice will find that he can hold the loaded gun and actually shoot it while maintaining the same mental attitude and going through the same calm, deliberate physical motions. A friend of mine learned to shoot quail in much the same manner. A good shot on the skeet range, the roar of a quail as it took off, and his anxiety for results or over motivation caused him to miss almost every time. On his next hunt, and after learning about shadowboxing, he carried an empty shotgun for the first day. There was no need to get excited because he couldn't shoot anyways. No need for over motivation when you're carrying an empty gun. He shot some 20 quail that day with an empty gun. By the time he had made his first 6 shots, all anxiety and jitteriness had left him. His companions thought he had lost a few of his buttons, but he redeemed himself the next day when he killed his first 8 birds and got a total of 15 quail out of 17 shots. Shadowboxing helps you hit the ball. Not long ago, I visited a friend of mine one Sunday in a suburban of New York. His 10-year-old son had visions of becoming a big league baseball star. His fielding was adequate, but he couldn't hit. Each time his father threw the ball across the plate, the boy froze up and missed it a foot. I decided to try something. You're so anxious about hitting the ball and so afraid you won't, that you can't even see it clearly, I said. All that tension and anxiety was interfering with his eyesight and his reflexes. His arm muscles weren't executing the orders from his brain. For the next 10 pitches, I said, don't even try to hit the ball. Don't try at all. Keep your bat on your shoulder, but watch the ball very carefully. Keep your eyes on it from the time it leaves your daddy's hand until it goes by you. Stand easy and loose and just watch the ball go by. After 10 trials of this, I advised him, now for a while, watch the ball go by and keep the bat on your shoulder. But think to yourself, you're going to bring the bat around so it will really hit the ball, solidly and dead center. After this, I told him to keep on feeling the same way and to keep watching the ball carefully and to let the bat come around and meet the ball, making no attempt to hit it hard. The boy hit the ball. After a few easy hits like this, he was knocking the ball a country mile, and I had a friend for life. The salesman who practiced not selling. You can use the same technique to hit the ball in selling, teaching, or running a business. A young salesman complained to me that he froze up when calling upon prospects. His one big trouble was his inability to properly reply to the prospect's objection. When a prospect raises an objection or criticizes my product, I can't think of a thing to say at the time, he said. Later, I can think of all kinds of good ways to handle the objection. I told him about shadowboxing and about the kid who learned to bat by letting the ball go by with the bat on his shoulder. I pointed out that to hit a baseball or to think on your feet requires good reflexes. Your automatic success mechanism must respond appropriately and automatically. Too much tension, too much motivation, too much anxiety for results jams the mechanism. You think of the proper answers later because you are relaxed and the pressure is off. Right now, your trouble is you're not responding quickly and spontaneously to the objections your prospect throws at you. In other words, you're not hitting the ball that the prospect throws. I told him, first of all, to practice a number of imaginary interviews, actually walking in, introducing himself to a prospect, making his sales pitch, and then imagining every possible objection, no matter how screwballish, and answering it out loud. Next, he was to practice with his bat on his shoulder, on an actual live client. He was to go in with an empty gun as far as intents and purposes were concerned. The purpose of the sales interview would not be to sell. He had to resign himself to being satisfied with no order. The purpose of the call would be strictly practice. Bat on the shoulder, empty gun, practice. In his own words, this shadow boxing worked like a miracle. As a young medical student, I used to shadow box surgical operations on cadavers. This no-pressure practice taught me much more than technique. It taught a future surgeon calmness, deliberateness, clear thinking, because he had practiced all these things in a situation that was not do or die, life or death. How to make your nerves work for you. The word crisis comes from a Greek word which means literally decisiveness or point of decision. A crisis is a fork in the road. One fork holds a promise of a better condition, the other of a worse condition. In medicine, the crisis is a turning point where the patient either gets worse and dies or gets better and lives. Thus, every crisis situation is two-pronged. The pitcher who goes in the ninth inning with the score tied, and 3 men on best case can become a hero and gain in prestige, or can become a villain who loses the game. Hugh Casey, who was one of the most successful and the calmest relief pitchers of all times, was once asked what he thought of when he was sent in a game in the middle of a crisis situation. "I always think about what I am going to do and what I want to happen," he said, "instead of what the batter is going to do and what may happen to me." He said he concentrated on what he wanted to happen, felt that he could make it happen, and that it usually did. This same attitude is another important key to reacting well in any crisis situation. If we can maintain an aggressive attitude, react aggressively instead of negatively to threats and crises, the very situation itself can act as simultaneous to release untapped powers. Several years ago, newspapers carried the story about a giant of a Negro who did what 2 wrecking trucks and a score of men could not do. He raised the crushed metal cab of a truck up off its pivot. He ripped out with his bare hands the brake pedal which had the driver's foot trapped, and he beat out the flames in the floor of the cab with his bare hands. Later, when this giant was found and identified, he turned out not to be a giant at all. Charles Dennis Jones was 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighed 220 pounds. His explanation for his extraordinary feat is, "I hate fire." 14 months before, his 8-year-old daughter had burned to death in a fire which had leveled his residence. I know a tall, rather frail man who single-handedly, somehow, managed to carry an upright piano out of his house, down 3 steps, up and over a 4-inch curb, and out to the center of his lawn. When his house was on fire, he had required 6 strong men to place the piano in his house. One rather frail man, under the stimulus of excitement and crisis, took it out himself. Number 2, crisis brings power. Neurologist J.A. Hadfield has made an extensive study in the extraordinary powers, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, which come to the aid of ordinary men and women in times of crisis. How wonderful is the way in which, with quite ordinary folk, power leaps to our aid in any time of emergency, he says. We lead timid lives, shrinking from difficult tasks, till perhaps we are forced into them or ourselves determine on them, and immediately we seem to unlock the unseen forces. When we have to face danger, then courage comes. When trial puts a long continued strain upon us, we find ourselves possessed by the power to endure. Or when disaster ultimately brings the fall which we so long dreaded, we feel underneath as the strength as of the everlasting arms. Common experience teaches that when great demands are made upon us, if only we fearlessly accept the challenge and confidently expend our strength, every danger or difficulty brings its own strength. As thy days, so shall thy strength be. The secret lies in the attitude of fearlessly accepting the challenge and confidently expanding on our strength. This means maintaining an aggressive, a goal-directed attitude rather than a defensive, evasive, negative one. No matter what happens, I can handle it, or I can see it through, rather than I hope nothing happens. Keep your goal in mind. The essence of this aggressive attitude is remaining goal-oriented. You keep your own positive goal in mind. You intend to go through the crisis experience to achieve your goal. You keep your original goal positive and do not get sidetracked into secondary ones. The desire to run away, to hide, to avoid by the crisis situation. Or, in the language of William James, your attitude is one of fight instead of one of fear or flight. If you can do this, the crisis situation itself acts as a stimulus which releases additional power to help you accomplish your goal. Lecky has said that the purpose of emotion is reinforcement or additional strength rather than to serve a sign of weakness. He believed that there was only one basic emotion, excitement, and that excitement manifests itself as fear, anger, courage, etc., depending upon our own inner goals at the time. Whether we are inwardly organized to conquer a problem, run away from it, or destroy it. The real problem is not to control emotion, but to control the choice of which tendency shall receive emotional reinforcement. If your intention or your attitude goal is to go forward, if it is to make the most of the crisis situation and win out in spite of it, then the excitement of the occasion will reinforce this tendency. It will give you more courage, more strength to go forward. If you lose sight of your original goal and your attitude goal becomes one of running away from the crisis, of seeking to somehow get past it by evading it, this running away tendency will also be reinforced, and you will be experiencing fear and anxiety. Don't mistake excitement for fear. Many people have made the mistake of habitually interpreting the feeling of excitement as fear and anxiety, and therefore interpreting it as a proof of inadequacy. Any normal person who is intelligent enough to understand the situation becomes excited or nervous just before a crisis situation. Until you direct it toward a goal, this excitement is neither fear, anxiety, courage, confidence, nor anything else other than a stepped up, reinforced supply of emotional steam in your boiler. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of additional strength to be used in any way you choose. Jack Dempsey used it to get so nervous before a fight he couldn't shave himself. His excitement was such that he couldn't sit or stand still. He did not, however, interpret his excitement as fear. He did not decide that he should run away because of it. He went forward and used the excitement to put an extra dynamite into his blows. Experienced actors know that this feeling of excitement just before a performance is a good token. Many of them deliberately work themselves up emotionally before going on stage. The good soldier is usually the man who feels excited just before battle. Many people place their bets at racetracks on the basis of which horse appears to be the most nervous just before going to the post. Trainers also know that a horse becomes nervous or spirited just before a race will perform better than usual. The term spirited is a good one. The excitement that you feel just before a crisis situation is an infusion of spirit and should be so interpreted by you. Not long ago, I met a man on a plane whom I had not seen for several years. In the course of conversation, he asked if I still made as many public speeches as I had in the past. Yes, he said. As a matter of fact, he had changed jobs so that he would be able to speak more, and now made at least one public speech every day. Knowing his love for public speaking, I commented that it was good that he had this type of work. Yes, he said. In one way it is good, but in another way it is not so good. I don't make as many good speeches as I used to. I speak so often that it has become old hat to me, and I no longer feel that little tingly feeling in the pit of my stomach, which tells me that I'm going to do well. Some people become so excited during an important written examination that they are unable to think clearly or even hold a pencil steadily in their hands. Other people become so aroused under the same circumstances that they perform over their heads. Their minds work better and clearer than usual. Memory is sharpened. It is not the excitement per se which makes the difference, but how it is used. All right, I'm going to stop here today, and I have so many things I want to comment on with you all. This first one we read about was practice without pressure. And I love this recommendation by the author because we're talking about how to turn a crisis into a creative opportunity, right? And the author went over the word crisis and how it means to make a decision, right? You're at a moment where you can either go left or right, and right is going to be what you want and left is going to be what you don't want. And you always have that choice in every moment of your life. You can always choose what you want to focus on. You choose what you want to focus on. And when you focus on what you want, you are more than likely going to get what you want. Same thing if you focus on what you don't want, you are more than likely to get what you don't want. And this recommendation of practice shadowboxing, right, or practice without pressure, is a great recommendation. Because understanding, the power of visualizing, understanding the power of feeling now as if you already have what you want. The universe has to align with that feeling, with that thinking, because you're no longer going to be acting from a place of lack, like I don't have what I want. You're going to be acting like it's already yours, and then before you know it, it will be. And I love these stories here about how the guy put out the fire. And he says his explanation for his extraordinary feat is, I hate fire. A lot of the times people don't know what they want. They don't have a desire for anything better than what they already possess. And it's because they don't have enough pain there. They don't have enough unpleasant experiences where they are in order to go after something more valuable and more esteemed than what they have right now. You have to find a reason behind your want to get something better, right? The why behind the why. And usually it's pain. Pain is a very powerful resource when you use it to your advantage. You could use that pain to fuel the idea of, okay, I hate this situation, right? I hate fire. So when I know that it's here and I see it, I'm going to put it out and I'm going to make sure there is no fire. You can use the same energy and the same thinking for anything in your life. Let's say you don't have a car. And you're like, I want a car. I hate taking the bus. I hate taking the train. It's so gross. It's so inconvenient. I can't go anywhere I want. It takes me more effort. It's not focusing on what you don't want. It's using that fuel, that fuel of what you want to really get what you want. You're like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done taking the public transportation. I'm going to get a car of my own. That's it, period. And focusing on that. What does your car look like? You know how you keep the bat on your shoulder and watch the ball pass you? What does your car look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like to drive it? What color is it? What model is it? What year is it? Where would you drive it to? Thinking about all these things, thinking about your life as if it is already exactly the way you want it, is going to gift you the life in your reality. So I hope you guys enjoyed that tip, because I really, really like that one. And this second one of crisis brings power, right? That's that same exact concept I was just explaining of what you don't want can be fuel to gift you in life what you want most. So use it to your advantage. Don't just focus on you don't like it. Turn that crisis into a creative opportunity and create from the feeling of dislike to something you love. So my name is Alyssa once again, and I hope you guys join us for the next reading of Psycho-Cybernetics We're going to be finishing up chapter 13. And the next part here is number 3. What is the worst thing that could possibly happen? So I'll talk to you guys later, and thank you for joining us.